What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to another edition of Green with Envy here on the 617 podcast, proudly brought to you by Crowworthy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in back here once again with his tag team partner, joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of the podcast, the one and only Greg Benakis.
What's good, brother? It's been a while.
Yo, it's good to be back. The dynamic duo is back together. Yo, appreciate you, my guy, holding it down last week for me with the solo dolo pod. We're gonna get into this here in a minute. Here, it's been a minute. So we're gonna catch up here for you guys live on air. I was out in LA last weekend, and so that kind of disrupted some of our recording schedules. So Greg, being that dude, stepped up, went ahead, knocked it down solo dolo, gave y'all some good takes, talked about Jerry Remy, some other great stuff in there. And then we had a busy week. You know, our guy Greg got back on stage this week, had a dope live show that I got a chance to go to, which is why we weren't able to do the live show. I was a little knocked up, a little sick. Yeah, not knocked up like pregnant, but like knocked up like in the sense of being a little sick a few days afterwards. So we ended up just waiting until today to give y'all some. But good news is that this has been a crazy ass week for the Celtics, so we're gonna have a lot of Celtics stuff to talk about. But first, Greg, tell us a little bit. What was it like getting back up on stage, man? The show was dope the other night.
It's been a while, man. We hadn't performed since a house party in June, and then before that, we hadn't performed in like a year. So this was the first time back at a venue in like almost 2 years, which is wild to think about. But it was a lot of fun, man. You know, rainy Wednesday night. You're not sure how many people are actually going to show up to a show. It's tough to get out there in the rain, but you know, we packed the house. There was a full room. It was a lot of fun. It was cool seeing some familiar faces in the crowd. Shout out to everybody that came through. And yeah, man, it was just really cool getting back on stage, bro. And we're hoping that show leads to a lot more shows. We're already in talks with a few groups about opening up for them at some even bigger venues here in Austin. So super excited about that. Yeah, man.
Let's go, man.
We got some momentum, bro.
Real quick, for just because a lot of our audience is obviously going to be listening in Massachusetts and Boston area. So the area that you performed at was called Mohawk here in Austin. So if y'all ever been to Austin, Texas, even if you're visiting, you may have been to Mohawk. It's like it's a legit venue here. That's, you know, one of our favorites to go to. Is there any equivalent that we could give to people that just so they might have an idea of the scope? I know you performed to the Middle East too. That's the one that always kind of jumps in my mind. But
it's probably roughly equivalent to the Middle East. I think that's a pretty good comparison. Okay. But like in terms of, I feel like Mohawk in Austin is far more reputable than the Middle East, or far more well known. Not that the Middle East is not reputable, but like
yeah.
It's just like not as big a deal to play at the Middle East as it is to play at Mohawk, because there aren't too many music venues in Boston, right?
Yeah,
so like
that's
it's kind of tough to draw like a direct analogy. But I'd say Middle East is probably pretty close to what Mohawk is for Boston.
Yeah. Because Mohawk's like a stepping stone within like the Austin community of like, if you're trying to knock off like the infinity gauntlet of like the venues you want to perform at, that's one of the stones. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah. You gotta get to Stubbs, you gotta get to Empire,
you gotta get to Antone's.
You gotta get to Antone's, and then like eventually maybe you play South by Southwest, or you play
Moody,
ACL.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
exactly.
It's
like
one
the House
of those.
Blues in Boston would be like, you know, one of the pinnacles.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stepping stone, but like as you said, like one of the infinity stones that you need.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah. Because stepping stone. As soon as I said that, wasn't exactly what I meant, but now the show was fire, man. Y'all absolutely killed it. One thing that I think is really cool, being your best friend and having watched you throughout this journey, is that, you know, when we first moved to Austin, I actually was the hype man for Greg, and most of that was one, I like acting a fool. And, you know, number two was like, you weren't sure what to do on stage yet. You know, you were
For
like,
sure.
I just need someone else up there, because it's just me. Like, I don't know. I haven't done this. And so eventually that kind of faded out, and you started to like feel like, you know who you were on stage.
Yeah.
And watching you last Wednesday, it was crazy to me, man. Like, I really think you have like a really strong grasp of like who you are on stage, and like kind of like got down like I think there was a point in your music life where like, because cool guy on stage, that's just like a thing, you know, like it doesn't, not everybody can pull it off. Not everybody has that. And like, I think you really worked on it, because like I think like it was in your head. You were probably in your own head to a certain degree, and like it just looked and felt very natural.
Yeah,
And so I thought it was really cool to see. I feel like your guy Daryl's still figuring it out a little bit, but he's got like his own energy that it makes it work for him. Like it's like his vibe, you know. And so I think the
for
two
sure.
of you on stage play off each other really well. So I thought it was really dope, man.
I appreciate that, man. And, you know, like obviously it means a lot coming from you because you were there from the very beginning.
Yeah,
And the very beginning was not pretty. So it's been a journey, dude. And you're right. Like, I mean, I feel very comfortable on stage now. It's just you're just talking to people, man. And you know, I mean, I teach as well, so like I'm constantly public speaking, and then like
yeah,
there is some element of like what I have to do in a classroom to what I have to do on stage. It's almost like rehearsal in itself every single day. Um, just because like you have to pretend to be a little bit more put together than you actually are as a teacher, and I feel like on stage you have to pretend like you're cooler than you actually are, and like it definitely feels more natural now. There's still like an element of me just being like, shit, like this is pretty terrifying up here. But at the same time, you know, when you have Daryl there, you have Dave there who's shredding on like 4 or 5
yeah,
different instruments. It's easy to just like have fun. And then, you know, breaking, I think like calling out people in the crowd and like interacting with people in the crowd as quickly as you can to kind of like break the wall just a little bit while still maintaining like, oh, you guys are the audience, we are the performers. It's definitely something you want to do early on in the performance. Yeah, but Daryl's hilarious, man. Like he he's so talented. He's a great rapper. He's a great singer. But like crowd interaction, we always talk about like he's not great at it. He's not great at it yet.
I felt
So
bad. I actually realized I meant to like say that comment off air, not on air. And I was like, 'cause I think it's like he has a certain vibe to him that if y'all like watch any, and maybe not in the videos he comes off great, like when y'all have the music videos and stuff. And it's not that he comes off bad. He just has like a goofier vibe to
yeah, he's a
him. That's
goofy
like,
dude.
yeah,
That's what he is. He's a goofy dude. So
but it's his
like
thing. It's authentic, which is good.
for sure. Yeah. And like we had this conversation at the rehearsal right before the show, like the night before, where he was doing a lot of like the pretend interacting with the crowd. And I was like, hey man, like let's just, you know, play to our strengths. Like I'll handle all that. You know, you do your singing, you rap when it's your turn to rap, and like I got the crowd stuff. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
you take your lane, I'll take my lane. You know,
Yeah. Like I would never
we'll converge
try and
together.
I would never try and sing the hooks. Like that's what Daryl
Yeah,
does. I would never try and
exactly.
play the violin. That's what Dave does.
Hey yo, real quick before we transition, I want to talk a little bit about LA for a second because that was a
Yeah, hit
cool
me with it.
experience. Well, real quick before that, just real quick, can you talk about the song that you closed your set with and the moment that you had to like kind of think on your feet? Because I thought that was really good.
Yeah, so I have this one song that's called Kyrie, which I wrote when Kyrie was on the Celtics because I was like, you know, obviously a huge Kyrie fan when he came to the Celtics and was on the Celtics. So I put out like a music video where it was like all Kyrie Irving clips, and like the whole song is at the time was a tribute to Kyrie, but I changed it from Kyrie to now it's called Fuck Kyrie. So at the beginning, I just like, you know, I'm introducing the song and I'm talking about how the song is called Fuck Kyrie. And I'm just like, yo, honestly, like, fuck Kyrie Irving. And then I see a couple people in the crowd, like, kind of like make some faces. And I realize, like, oh shit, maybe they think I'm making like a political statement. I'm like really not trying to. I just like really dislike Kyrie as a human. And I was just like, you know what? This has nothing to do with the vaccine. I'm a Boston Celtics fan, and just
Yeah.
and like really tried to like move on from it quickly because it could have gotten awkward there for a second.
Yeah, and, like, knowing you as well as I do, I could see the wheels turning in your head as it was happening, and I asked you right when you came up, that was the only thing I really wanted to know. I was like, "Yeah, you had no plans of saying that, did you?" It was just something, like, in the moment, you were like, "Oh, fuck, these reactions are now being tied to something else." I forgot about the updates of Kyrie Irving from when I had originally made the song, which so now there's, like, 3 different iterations. There's Kyrie because you love Kyrie, fuck Kyrie because fuck Kyrie, and now it's fuck Kyrie, but this isn't a vax statement.
Yeah.
It's just this isn't a political statement. Just I don't like the basketball player Kyrie Irving
Yeah.
anymore. So it was
Exactly.
that was a cool little moment, man. That was cool. But yeah, for myself, I was out in LA. I saw Pats again today as we're recording.
Let's
Pick up
go.
another win. Pats 5-4 back in the playoffs. Let's get it.
Buffalo lost
Was Buffalo lost as well? Yeah, lost to Jackson. There's a couple weird losses. The Cowboys lost today too.
to
Yeah, it was a
Broncos.
strange day. But I was out in LA last week. Yo, it was a trip, man. Going to that game was basically like a home game. Now I know that's kind of the standard for Chargers games. I don't think Rams games are the same way, but like Chargers, like is pretty much whatever the opposing team is. Like, I can't imagine how annoying it must be to be a Los Angeles Charger player and know that you're playing essentially 17 road games, because
Yeah.
you like literally it was like 70% Patriots fans. I don't even know if there was another Charger fan sitting around us. So it was a
Wow.
really weird environment. The stadium was a brand new stadium. It's like just opened, I think 2 years ago or last year during the pandemic. Beautiful stadium, really confusing to get to your seats, but it was a beautiful stadium nonetheless. But the main thing I do want to talk about was that I was there with four other guys. I'm gonna leave them nameless, two of which are Green with Envy contributors. So y'all have met them on the show before if you've been following us. But the one thing I do want to say is, man, drinking back to back weekends in your 30s, trying to get after it with the boys, fuck, does that take a toll? Oh my god, bro. So Sunday, by the time we get to Sunday, flew in Friday night. As soon as I get in, go hit the town for a little bit. Saturday night, Saturday, we take a little bit to get going, pop a couple edibles, start hitting the town. The night keeps spiraling, goes a little bit later, a little bit longer, a couple more drinks than intended. Sunday's a little rough getting started for the boys. So there's 5 of us on the trip. By the time we get to the game, we're basically a commercial where there's like 5 versions of like guys in their 30s trying to drink for a weekend. So there's like a scale from 1 to 5.
Okay. Let me hear this scale.
So on one end, we have the guy who just kept it going, pretty much like never slept, like just kept drinking, kept rolling through the game. He's got like he's got faux energy, but it's like he somehow still has the ability to keep going. This is a single guy in his 30s, I'll say that. So that helps you a little bit. He's still going. Then we have level number 2. This is the next guy who's hungover, but is not aware enough, but has the ability enough to kind of force themselves to get back into that mode and kind of like, all right, I'm gonna pound down a couple of drinks and get back into it, and like I'm gonna fight myself over that hill.
Mhm.
Then you got the guy in the middle, and I'll admit this one's me. I'm the one in the middle where it's like I'm trying to be guy number 2,
Yeah.
but it's like as soon as I take a sip of alcohol, it's basically like I'm back to the end, like some point at the end of the night before, and it's way too aggressive, especially at like 11 a.m. And so
Yeah, you
especially
you
at
can be
this,
pretty drunk the morning after.
yeah. So it was hitting me, but I was self aware. This is growth. This is where
Mhm.
growth comes in.
Yep.
So I was self aware. I was like, all right, well, you got to like calm it down here, man. Let's get some water. Let's get some coffee, maybe a juice. Mixing up a burrito here. And so I was like, okay, now I think I'm gonna get it. We walk into the stadium. I'm like, all right, now I'm ready. I grab a beer, and like as soon as I get to my seat, which took a while, because like I said, the stadium's beautiful, but it's confusing. And so they have like this new like 360 jumbotron, and it's like super bright in there. A lot of lights, a lot of like different things going on. So like my mind and my eyes are all just like scattered. And as I'm trying to drink this beer, the same thing's happening. So it takes me the entire first half to drink a beer, because I'm just like I'm there, I'm present, but like I don't know what's happening with my body. I'm a little confused. I'm concerned. I'm hoping it goes the right way. So I slow things down. I go get a soda and a pizza, and I kind of like get myself up. So I'm pretty much right at that steady level. I do end up having one more beer, and I'm like I'm having a great time. It's good. Level number 4. We got a guy that wakes up, trying to keep it together, just not really like talking much, but just like trying to focus, get themselves like through
Yeah.
the day.
Just a married man?
Um, yes, it is a married man.
Okay.
So I know you know who I'm talking about. And get to the stadium. It's time for a little puke and rally. And so what has to be done has to be done. So goes in, makes it happen, come back out. This man's now at level 3, but the puke kind of had to put him at level 4 just to
Mhm.
kind of get there.
Yeah.
So so then we got 4 stages nicely defined. Stage 5, the guy who should have never got out of bed, who is just a zombie walking around, like literally out of The Walking Dead, sunglasses down the entire time, yet 70% of the time their eyes are closed.
Is this a guy that is our guy here in Austin's best friend?
No, I think you have it mixed up with somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Um, but this person was literally going from seat to seat, and as we would watch the games, could not, just didn't have the energy, just didn't have it in him. And this was the person that you did not want to be after you spent all this money to go to the game, the
Yeah.
flight, the drinks. get to the game, and you're pulling like the way that we described it is, have you ever been watching TV on the couch and someone's like, "Are you even watching this?" And you're like, "Yeah. Don't worry, I'm listening," even though you're like pretty much taking a nap. That's
Yep.
essentially what this person was doing, but
The
in
whole game.
person at the game. Most of it,
Damn.
most of it. I won't say
Damn.
all of it, but I'll say most of it. And we kind of lost this person for most of the third quarter because they just needed some alone time. But they came back, so that was the good news. And the Pats won, and the Pats are, right now they're streaking, man, and things are looking good. So
Yo, our defense is fire right now.
I love it, man. I'm very excited. I didn't get a chance to. I didn't have a chance to watch the game today. I was keeping up with it on my phone,
Played
but I'm just
great.
excited the Pats are back, man.
Dude, and we're 5-4. I think Buffalo now is 5-3. We play Buffalo twice. I think next week or the week after. I think it's next week. And then we have a game against the Titans and then the Bills
AFC is wide
again.
open, man. AFC
Yeah,
is
it's
weird right
wide
now.
open. I did not think we'd be able to catch Buffalo, but Buffalo just lost to Jacksonville. They just lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So maybe we have a chance to actually steal the AFC East, which would be nuts because we don't really want to have to go to Buffalo in the playoffs. So, if we can somehow manage home field advantage out of this, that would be insane. Our running back, although Stevenson and Harris both left with head injuries in the fourth quarter,
Not ideal.
Not ideal. They looked great. Stevenson looked awesome. He looked explosive. I know he was kind of riding the pine a little bit after he fumbled in week 1. But he's back. Brandon Bolden, who is a different number now, which really throws me off.
Yeah.
I don't like that. But Brandon Bolden looked great. He looked explosive. And then Damian Harris, although his numbers weren't awesome, I mean, he's just a legit back, dude. He's a legit back. And Mac, he had one really bad interception where Gilmore picked him off, which was a nice little poetic justice for Gilmore. But like our defense, dude, J.C. Jackson had 2 interceptions, one for pick 6. Jamie Collins was disruptive. He picked off Sam Darnold at the line, bro. Did you see the highlight of that?
I haven't seen that highlight yet, but I love that Jamie Collins can only be a productive NFL player on the Patriots. He keeps playing for the Patriots, getting paid, going to another team, getting released, coming back to the Patriots, getting paid, going to another team, getting released. Like, it's insane. This has happened 3 times now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but dude, Darnold had just thrown an interception, throws one like a third down pass. Collins literally jumps at the line and picks off the ball at the line instead of swatting it. It was insane. One of the plays that only Jamie Collins can make.
Yeah.
He's such a freak athlete. Such a freak athlete. The Patriots are back, man. 5-4. Schedule's pretty easy the rest of the way. So I'm expecting if we don't make the playoffs now, it'll be a disappointment.
Isn't it funny how quickly things turn?
Mm-hmm.
It was, hey, it's just a growing season, it's a rebuild year. All of a sudden, you get a couple wins in a row, and it's like, well, man, now it's like
same thing. The Red Sox did to us.
Same thing, and expectations, man, they're killer. And I think I'm going to use this as our pivot here.
There you go.
Expectations are what the Celtics had, man, and this week, all right. So since you and I have last been together on this podcast, holy shit. Just like this week for the Celtics, I'm going to recap us here in just a second, reset the entire timeline, because we're just going to talk about the week in totality. And we're also going to do a little dive into the Discord. We're going to mix it in here because we had a few questions come through us. If you're not following us with the 617 podcast Discord, you need to get on there. It has everything you need, not just Celtics, but if you want to follow and talk about anything else Boston sports related, it is the place that you need to be. We'll make sure we throw that link out there when we post this podcast. But we're going to mix that in here. But let's reset the timeline here. And let me just take you through the week that the Celtics just had. So let's start on Monday. Game against the Chicago Bulls. Home game against the Chicago Bulls. Just an epic collapse where the Celtics end up losing the fourth quarter 39-11. 39-11. Yeah, that's a rough one. Watch that one in the LA airport. Not a fun watch, my friends. Not a fun watch. Following the game, Marcus Smart has post-game press conference comments referring to the Jays passing and what's happening late in games. We'll talk more about that, about how we felt about all that. But that's step one in this long week here. Tuesday, Wednesday, Woj. I wouldn't call it a Woj bomb. What's another word? It's like a Woj missile.
Woj. I feel like it's like a Woj just shotgun.
Woj shotgun? Okay. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to think of, whatever. There's a Woj shotgun goes off, to talking about there's a team, a players only meeting, or was it a dinner? Or was it regularly planned? Who the fuck knows? They all talked about the same shit. Like, it was
Mhm.
really annoying that people were making a big deal about the way it was termed. The point is, some shit needed to be talked out. So they got together and they had that meeting. From there,
Mhm.
Wednesday night, a much needed win against the Orlando Magic, hold them to under 80 points. Absolutely had to have that win versus one of the few teams really in the NBA. It's looking like that you have to absolutely get those wins versus is the Orlando Magic, and they did it. So they did their job. Fast forward to Thursday, and what might have been the best win, not certainly the best win of the Celtics season, but one of the best wins in the NBA this season, just dominating the first place Miami Heat, also holding them to under 80 points. Neesmith finally played. We've been asking for that for so long. Thank you, Ime. And only downside to this, we lose Jaylen Brown in that game, potentially with a
Mhm.
hamstring injury. We're going to circle back to that because that may need to be delved into a little bit more. Go ahead to Friday. Shockingly, nothing happened. I don't know how. Somehow, something happened every single day this week. Nothing happened on Friday. Saturday, come out here to where Greg and I live in Texas. They go to Dallas. Luka Doncic. Luka, freaking legend, at the buzzer. Just an absolute dagger. Tale of two halves. Once again, coming full circle. Got some more Marcus stuff that we need to talk about from this game. There's a lot in there, Greg. There's a lot that we're going to talk to that affects stuff going forward, but a lot happened in this past week. Where do you want us to go first?
I let's just start with the Marcus Smart stuff because we're 21 minutes into
Which
the pod.
which Marcus Smart stuff? He started
all,
the week
all
and
of
he ended the week.
all of the stuff, like, and who he is for the Celtics. Because when he said that stuff about the Jays, when you listen to how he's delivering the message, like he's speaking unemotionally for the most part. He's trying to give like a rational, objective assessment of how they're playing and how the team is doing. He even says at one point that he's proud of the progress that they're making. The message itself isn't bad. It's, the way that it's done. Some people were saying that, the messenger, it should not have come from Marcus Smart at all, which I disagree with. I think Marcus is one of the leaders in the locker room, whether you like it or not, he is. And he has every right to voice those concerns to the Jays. And he's speaking truth, man. Like, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum need to be better at the end of games, making plays for their teammates. They need to move the ball better. This is not anything new. But then when you compound that by making the biggest bonehead mistake of the game to end up losing against the Dallas Mavericks, like back-to-back mistakes where you try and flop for a foul on Kristaps Porzingis, which in my opinion was a foul, but like you can't flop in that situation. You got to like play the whistle. You can't hope that the whistle is going to get called after you throw up your shot. Then when you foul Luka Doncic in that situation, when you have an opportunity to get the ball back, it's just like, bro, what, you are normally one of the smartest players on the court, and for you to make that mistake in that moment, it like reflects poorly on you, but it also reflects poorly on the team and the communication amongst the team in the huddle. How the hell? I'm not going to say any F bombs today, Will. I've been using a lot of F bombs. My dad doesn't like it. Okay.
Sorry, Charlie.
How the hell do you not communicate that as a team in the huddle? What else are you talking about? Honestly, what else are you talking about in that situation? I'm asking you.
I mean, so okay, so here's the thing, like, you've been a coach before. Like, even if you coach high school kids who have varying levels of where they've played basketball. Like, so I would expect that this would be something you're like for sure staying. That's probably the only thing that you're just reiterating is like, hey, here's the defense we're running, don't foul. Here's what I want you to do with the defense, don't foul. Here's
Mm-hmm.
where you need to go if this happens, don't foul. And you would just keep building that
Yeah.
in as like, hey, whatever you walk away from this, don't foul. You might mess up your assignment, you might mess up something else. The one thing
Mm-hmm.
I know you're going to walk away from this is don't foul. I've never played. You've played at higher levels. Is that something that falls on Ime? Because there's part of me where it's like Marcus Smart, for the level of defender he is, for the veteran that he is, and to your point, I didn't really have that much of an issue with his comments. Could it have been done internally? I think perhaps, but also if it's been had internally and the message isn't getting through, sometimes you got to go public with it. So
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily have a problem with that. But if you're going to be that veteran that's speaking up, that's taking this, you got to be prepared for these moments, because there's one
Mhm.
thing when it's a mistake if you took a bad shot, but when it's a mental mistake that you should be well prepared for, and you're talking about, I don't get respect being 2-time defensive player, all NBA. I don't get the respect for this or that. People
Mhm.
think I'm slipping, and then you do shit like this. Like Ime admitted, like he should have
He should
said
have.
more. He should have said more about it, which I agree with. But does that fall more on him, or does it still? I feel like it still has to land on Marcus, because this is just like, dude, you're not a guy's second year in the league. You're a 6-7 year vet who wants to get treated like some of the best in the league.
For sure. But I think even more than him making the mistake in the game, the bigger thing is that he's not the one in the huddle being like, yo, like, are we
Correct. Okay,
fouling
I
or
see
not?
you.
You know what I mean? Like, that communication needs to happen amongst the team. I was asking you, like, what else could you possibly be talking about? Because to me, that's the first thing that you say back in that huddle. It's like, okay, we have a chance for the last shot. We don't foul. Here's the defense. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Like, like, I don't know what else was communicated in that huddle. I really would like to know what was said, because it's ridiculous to me that it wasn't said as the very first thing coming back. You don't need to say it multiple times. Just say it once. And then, like, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the crazy part about it was, and like I had to rewatch the game this morning. I didn't have a chance to watch it in live time, so I had to stop my TV and like go rewind, because after they come out of that huddle, Rob breaks up the initial play, knocks off
Mhm.
2 more seconds from the play clock, or from the shot clock, and from the game clock. And so now they're actually, 3/4 of the way away from the basket. So they're further back. And I'm like, okay, we're in great position now. We just took off another
Mhm.
2 seconds. They're not going to have time to run whatever it was they just called, or we're going to make them make a quicker decision that maybe they
Mhm.
don't want to. And then the play happens. And so was Marcus always going to do that? Like, I don't even like it, like we ended up in a better position, and then we somehow messed it up. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's to use
But
Ime's word, it's mind boggling.
another mind-boggling thing, and this is something that I'm hoping Ime figures out at some point, man, is these like end of game situations in which you can go offense, defense, and to get your best lineups on the floor. If you go back and you actually watch the way that the defense is set up, Dennis Schroeder is standing on the left low block. Okay, if you're going to have Dennis Schroeder in the game, put him on the ball, or like put him in an action in which he can like make a difference with his speed. Why are you putting him on the left low block when that could be a guy with size, right? If you know what Luka's going to do, like Al Horford is on that left low block, right? Dennis Schroeder's out of the game.
Yeah. Scal even
And
made
what
that
you
point
do,
on the broadcast.
did he? I didn't even hear
Yeah,
that.
he did
But
make that point. Yeah.
okay, yeah, and it like doesn't make sense to me. So what I would have done is double Luca right when Kristaps comes over and sets that screen, right? Instead, we switch it. Double Luca, get the ball out of Luca's hands. You don't let him touch that ball. But Kristaps sets the screen at half court. Luca goes left. Kristaps rolls to the basket. So if we double him, he gives the ball to Kristaps Porzingis, who then has to make a decision. With Al Horford, if Ime did it right, Al Horford stepping up to take that away, right? And like Kristaps maybe he shoots a 3-pointer, maybe he has a turnover, who knows what happens. But like you're in a much better position to guard that action with Al Horford there instead of Dennis Schroeder. And then we didn't have we don't force that double team, right? So Luka has the ball. Now we're back to reality. Luka's dribbling left. Okay. Robert Williams is standing there looking at Luka Doncic for the entire time. He does not move. And Reggie Bullock is like right in front of him. Run at Luka Doncic, dude. Get the ball out of Luka's hands. Luka's going left. Marcus Smart is the one doubling from the top side of the defense. That's not going to make a difference because Luka's going for that shot left. Rob Williams has to step up in that situation. Now, if he steps up, maybe there's a pass to the corner, but that's a pretty difficult pass in tight quarters like that. Maybe Reggie Bullock cuts to the basket. If Reggie Bullock cuts to the basket, now it's Dennis Schroeder sitting there trying to defend the rim. It's like, why isn't Al Horford in the game in that situation? It was just like, you can blame Marcus for fouling, but like
Hmm.
Ime messed up, Rob messed up, and Richardson and Smart messed up again by not doubling Luka. Like, what was communicated in that huddle? I really don't know, unless Ime was just like, let's get a stop. Let's get a stop. Like
The
what are you
cheerleader
doing?
coach
Yeah.
approach.
Like, you Jason Garrett, bro? Like what's going on here, man? Like what was your strategy at the end of the game? Because it doesn't seem like there was one.
Well, I mean, that was one of the questions that we got on Twitter here from our guy Tim Shales. Tim Shales, NBA. Is that, am I saying it right? Am I saying it wrong? Yeah,
I think it's Shields, but
Tim Shields.
Shales
Got
might,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was asking us, does Boston need to change their lineup when closing out games? And I think it's hard to say with this last game against the Mavs. I mean, to your point, it's there was an answer. We didn't use it.
Mhm.
But, I was going back and forth watching the game this morning, and there was part of me that at certain times towards, I'm talking about the entire fourth quarter stretch, not just that final play, where I agree it doesn't really make sense to not have Al in the game at that time over Dennis Schroeder for what you're trying to do, and
Mhm.
maybe that changes a whole lot of things. But there was part of me that appreciated Ime going with kind of the hot hand, which was that lineup was being ultra aggressive. They were being
Yep.
fast. They were getting out in transition. That was one of my notes was Josh. This was probably my favorite Josh Richardson game of the
He was
season.
awesome. Yeah.
He was great, man. Him with the ball in transition, it's a problem. Him just standing around trying to pretend to be a floor spacer, not so great. And so when you have these lines, this is one of the things I started to think about is that when we first looked at this team, not all the pieces fit great together, but the one thing that I thought it allowed you to do is be very malleable in the moment. Is it allowed
Mhm.
you to adjust on the fly. Now they were a little shorthanded yesterday without Jalen. Obviously, Romeo was out with the illness, so that changes it a little bit. But there's still opportunities, which and I feel like Ime has. This is a part that's a big time learning curve for him as a coach. Is you don't have to just say, okay, here's what I'm doing, and I'm only sticking with this. And I feel like
Mhm.
he gets in that mode a little bit too much. And there was times where yesterday it was working. And I love that he stuck with it. But then at a certain point, it's like, hey, listen, time and circumstances change. Once we got under, 3-4 minutes and things were starting to be more half court than they were like an up and down pace type game, Jason Tatum was getting doubled the entire time the last 3-4 minutes, like,
Mhm.
outside the 3-point line. And it's because when you look around, they put one body on Rob Williams at the rim, and then it's like, oh, go ahead, Marcus Smart, shoot. Go ahead, Dennis Schroeder, shoot. Go ahead, Josh Richardson, shoot. It's
Mhm.
like that's when you got to come back and get, whether it's Neesmith or Horford, you got to get somebody that has another level of a threat to them in some capacity back on the court. And that's where I think Ime's really struggling right now. It's not just the defensive lineup to close out games, just the lineups in general, I think are a struggle for him right now and getting the right feel for when to make certain moves.
Yeah, I was actually talking with Adam earlier on the Celtics blog pod, and he was, touching on why we're starting games so slow. And it's like, well, we're like the two big lineup, although it's a good defensive lineup, it's just like not doing anything offensively. It's terrible offensively. Like we need to make the call now. Like when Jalen comes back, one of the bigs should be on the bench. And it should be, in my opinion, if it's Schroeder, fine. We can go Schroeder, Smart, Jays, and a big. We can go Smart, Romeo, Smart, Neesmith, Smart, Richardson, whoever you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But there's better spacing on the court when you have only one big on the court. And I think Tatum is good enough at the 4, and Brown is good enough guarding up at the 3. Smart's good enough guarding up. Like we can do it. And when you see what those like smaller lineups did against Miami, it doesn't make any sense why you're still trotting out this two big lineup, which doesn't work. Like it doesn't work offensively. There's not enough space. It's just, very, very bogged down, no spacing at all. And going back to like the end of game lineups, man, we had the ball with 40 seconds left. We know that they're doubling Jason Tatum. Why not call a timeout, get your best offensive lineup with or even keep that lineup out there, but at least have a plan for how to attack the double, because Tatum got doubled. He moved the ball. They moved the ball, ends up with Smart, who is attacking Kristaps Porzingis on a closeout, which on some level you want, right? Like that's not a
Mm-hmm.
bad place to be. Marcus Smart attacking a 7-foot, less athletic than he used to be, Kristaps Porzingis. But when you watch that play, man, Tatum stands by half court. Adam and I actually disagreed pretty seriously on this one. Like he said that Tatum was mirroring Marcus Smart. I disagree 100%. Tatum was standing there, last second realized like, oh crap, I need to run to the wing because Smart's driving to the basket and he's late and Smart doesn't have an outlet to get in the ball. If Tatum
Mm-hmm.
moves the ball and relocates to the wing, then Smart, when he drives on Porzingis, is able to see that and make the pass, but Tatum just stood there. Rob Williams, could seal Luka Doncic in the post. If you go back and rewatch that, when Smart gets the ball, Rob ducks his head, runs to the opposite block, and is uninvolved in the play. He could have either sealed Luka for a dump inside, or he could have gone and set a screen on Porzingis. Now, I don't have an issue with Tatum. I don't have an issue with Smart. I don't have an issue with Rob in those situations. I have an issue with Ime for not calling a fucking time. Damn it. For not calling a timeout. Sorry, Dad, for not calling a timeout and like drawing that up and being like, hey, this is what they're going to do. Here's where you're going to go. Like, don't just assume that these guys are going to be in the right spot when they haven't really had to deal with this doubling defense all year, because we've had Jaylen Brown in the game and no one's really just doubled Tatum and get the ball out of Tatum's hand. So it was just like coaching malpractice, honestly, man. Like, the offensive possession and then not communicating to the team what your strategy is defensively is a joke. It's an absolute joke. And Ime, I want to like you, dude. I really do. But like some of the stuff that you're doing, it's just coaching 101, bro. Like, anybody that has a brain should be able to figure this out. And I like some of the things he's doing. You're starting to see him pick up on like, oh, I do need a little bit more shooting. Like, he wasn't stubborn. He played Neesmith, who didn't have a good game, but he played him again. He gave him 20 minutes. It seems like Grant is going to be the odd man out in the rotation, that he's going to go small. Grant's been bad lately. So I don't think you're going to see much of Grant once Jalen's back. I think it's going to be.
We tried to defend Grant for a little bit.
We tried. Grant, just chill on the bench, man. You'll be good. You'll be good over there. Just be a cheerleader. Because like I think a lineup of like a very, very switchable lineup of Romeo Langford, Aaron Neesmith, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Rob Williams, like a lineup like that could work. Like it does. We don't need Grant Williams as a small ball 4. Like if he's a small ball 5, maybe. But if it seems like we're going to be running out Horford and Lob for a majority of the center minutes, and Grant doesn't offer enough as a 4 to like warrant him being on the floor over somebody like Romeo, over somebody like Neesmith, over somebody like Richardson. He just like doesn't belong on the floor.
Yeah, well, from our Discord channel, we had 2 questions that I think we touched on pretty thoroughly in our last couple of minutes here. From Junjun1504, what happened to our defense? And from Hendog, why did Smart foul Luka? Hopefully we answer some. I know we sure as hell didn't answer why did Smart foul Luka, because I don't think we know. I don't think anybody knows. It just gotta happen.
I'm wondering if that question, what happened to our defense, is a comment on the defense being bad, which I disagree with. I thought the defense was great in the second half, especially, and the defense was awesome in the Orlando and Miami games. I think not having Jaylen Brown, who's been amazing on the ball this year, he's like one of the best isolation defenders. Eye test wise, he's just like shutting dudes down. Like he played great defense on Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler usually like bullies him and bullies Marcus Smart. I thought Jaylen was amazing that Heat game. Romeo's been great.
The Heat game, the whole team was amazing. The Heat game was one of the best games I've seen in such a long time, because it was the definition of a team game. Like Tatum went 3 of 13, 9 points, and Jaylen had I think 17 before he'd left, but wasn't his most efficient night shooting. It was all the contributions that you got from Neesmith, that you got from Romeo, that you got from Lob, who Lob's been the most consistent player. I think him along with Horford have been the 2 most consistent players, in my opinion, through the first 10 games. Like, it's the 2 of them that have given this team some form of a baseline, because pretty much when you sign up for the game, you're getting somewhere around 25 points, 20 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 5-6 assists. You just know that that's coming from the 2 of them, and then it's the rest of it that you're kind of trying to figure out which Schroeder are we getting tonight? What are we getting from Marcus? Are we getting a peak Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown game? We getting a mid? Or we getting a low level game from them? That's everything else has been kind of fluctuating, but the 2 of them have been so solid. And in that Heat game, it was really all of the pieces kind of coming together. And I still feel I still feel like the end result in Dallas, you can't simmer on it, I think, too much, even though there's a bunch of little things that could have changed that outcome.
Yeah.
Like there's these games that are going to happen. The Mavericks are the Celtics equal. Even at our peak, the two teams are going to be similar in the hierarchy of the NBA, and however you break it down with tiers and whatnot. And at the end of the day, one of the top 5 players in the league, in my opinion, hit an unbelievable shot. Like, to your
Mhm.
point, it could have been defended better. He still hit a shot with 3 Celtics within 4 feet of him, 3 feet of him, whatever it was, and 2 of which are
Hit the
hard
same
closing
shot
out on
last
him.
year.
I know, that's insane. That the insane part watching it was that, like, Gorman. I'm not blaming you, Mike. Not blaming you, man. But set it up so perfect. Talking about Luka doing this, they showed the highlight of him hitting it, going to the left, just going the other end of the floor. But same thing, going to his left, hitting that shot, and so it's like that shot's coming. It's coming right there, and
Mhm.
to Luka's credit, he just hit it. But my point being, we started the week epic collapse against the Bulls where, I feel like I kind of cursed that game a little bit. I was like, man, this is really nice looking at the Celtics having fun. This is a great
Mhm.
game. And literally, as soon as I sent that tweet, it all went downhill immediately after that. And then, of course, you had the team meetings and everything. You get the win in Orlando. You get the great win in Miami. You lose by 3 at the buzzer to another playoff level team with one of the top 5 players in the NBA. So you end the week 2-2. Honestly, for as chaotic and crazy as it's been, if you really just stop and look at it, like our guy on Twitter, Mr. Pink at S8TON, asked, "Will the pain stop?" When I asked for questions. We're 2-2, man. It was 2-2 throughout the week. 4-6. The Bucks are 4-5. The Hawks are 500, a game under 500. Like, it's still early enough that stuff needs to change. But I think it's like we gotta like calm down just a little bit as a whole, as a collective whole.
Yeah, we're being far too reactionary to the small sample size. And like I kind of hate talking about small sample sizes because like we should like you want to be the best team that you can be from the very beginning of the season. And it sucks that we're 4-6. We should be better than that.
Yeah.
But like we're gonna be okay if Jason Tatum plays like he just did. Like no matter we can talk about all these other guys, but if Jason Tatum is playing like an MVP candidate, then we're going to be all right, man. And Jason Tatum looked like he finally found his groove. The last couple games, anytime the ball went through the hoop, Jason Tatum looked relieved that the ball went through the hoop. This was the first game where he expected the ball to go through the hoop.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, right? You started to see that confidence back from him. And I think, with JB being out for however long he's going to be out, we have a great opportunity for Tatum to really find his groove. We have an opportunity for Nesmith and Romeo to like really make carve out rotation minutes for themselves. Hopefully Romeo gets back soon. I think we're going to be okay as long as we don't like end up any more under 500 than we actually are. If we can play 500 ball until JB gets back, then I'm okay with that. And it starts with a rematch against the Raptors on Wednesday and my guy Scotty Barnes. But I think
Hold on. Put your chub for Scotty Barnes away for just like 2 seconds here. Let's talk about this for a minute because this is what I wanted to get into next. Is like with JB being out, we don't know yet how long he's actually going to be out. They say it could be a couple weeks, but obviously they sat him on Saturday knowing we had 3 off days coming before we meet the Raptors. But looking ahead, here's what the next 2 weeks look like if we don't have JB. And I want to talk a little bit about what we hope happens, what we're concerned may happen, all the stuff that goes into that. So over the next 2 weeks, as you mentioned, we got the Raptors, followed by the Bucks, 2 games against the Cavaliers, who are not a joke right now. Like, that's not a game that you can walk into thinking that you're going to get a win. The Hawks, who I talked about just a moment ago, the Lakers, and then you get the Thunder and Rockets, which are part of that group that I mentioned with the Magic. There's only a small group, at least right now in the NBA, it feels like, where you just say, I don't care which of our players we're running out there. That's a game we absolutely have to win. If we're going to be in a tight playoff race, we can't be the Lakers who lose to the Thunder twice somehow.
Mhm.
And, you can't lose to the Thunder, Rockets, Magic, Pistons. Those are like the handful of teams that are just like, those are the easy ones that we have to get if our record's going to mean a damn thing when we get to the end of this in the regular season. We have to get those because we know there's going to be games like the Dallas one. Like I said, you can't sweat a legendary player, Luka Legend, hitting a shot like that. Even if you could have like tweaked a couple small things, you can't sweat that. You got to be able to brush that off, but you got to get those guarantees, as close to guarantees as you're going to get. So Raptors, Bucks, Cavs times 2, Hawks, Lakers, and then what needs to be 2 wins, Thunder, Rockets. To your point, if we say we got to have to go ahead and get those, and then we can at least still manage to play 500, slightly over 500 ball. I mean, is that possible without JB with that list of teams coming up here?
Yeah, I think we could beat the Raptors. I think the Raptors are a lot better than people were giving them credit for at the beginning of the year. I was very high on the Raptors, as you know. I think that they're just terrifying. Like the length that they bring to the court, they're terrifying. The Bucks right now, being down a little bit, they haven't been playing great basketball. I think the Raptors game, they're trying to rework Siakam back into the mix. He had his first game today against the Nets, and I think they actually started a no center lineup. So they went
Yeah.
Van Vliet, Trent, Barnes, OG, and Siakam, which is pretty interesting. So that's a lineup that you might see Ime be like, maybe I should not start two bigs if they're not starting one big. So we'll see. We'll see if Ime actually makes that adjustment. And then you get the Bucks, who are shorthanded. So I think that we can win that game as well, even though I don't think we'll be favored in either of those games without JB. And then the next game was who?
We had 2 against the Cavs.
Okay. And I would imagine we'll split those games because the Cavs are scrappy.
We always seem. I feel like those are just the games because like the Cleveland arenas, and maybe it's a little bit more alive now that they kind of have like something brewing there. But it just
Mm-hmm.
feels like anytime that LeBron wasn't there, that stadium is so dead. It has that in baseball when the Red Sox go to Tampa, and it's like, man, like this atmosphere is putting me to sleep. And I feel like it affects our players as well. I feel like Cleveland kind of has that as well, but maybe it's a little bit different right now with Evan Mobley, Sexland, Okoro that they have going on right now,
Mm-hmm.
marketing. Like they got like, and I even mentioned this during kind of our preseason like preview. They've got a lot of things. I don't know if they're all going to continue to work together as well as they are right now, but they have stuff. It just does it
Yeah.
all fully work together. And so I mean, there's no jokes here over these next like 6 games or so for the Celtics, man. So getting by this without JB, it's 100% going to require, Tatum to beat Tatum. And, that's one of the things I talked about it last week as well on a different podcast was, chicken or the egg. Like we keep talking about all these different things that Ime needs to do, these adjustments that happen when it's, I like to a certain point, that stuff does matter, but does it matter as much if Jason Tatum is just being Jason Tatum? Because a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
games were still very winnable, but he went 7 of 30. He went, and had 3 of 13, even though we won that game. But my point, he was shooting 30 something percent from the field and under 30% from 3. So if Jason Tatum is just being regular Jason Tatum, maybe a lot of this is not as big of a deal as it is right now. And the Celtics are maybe not 4-6, maybe they're 6-4, maybe they're 7-3 or something different.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when you think about Tatum. We want him to drive the ball to the basket more, and we want him to get to the free throw line more. But the game is being called differently this year. So like all of the little tricks that trainers and the Drew Hanlons and the DJ Sackmans of the world have been teaching these guys, they're not really being called that way anymore. So when Tatum drives to the basket, instead of like searching out contact, what he's been doing over the last couple of games is like sidestepping a lot more and kind of slithering a lot more to the basket rather than trying to go through guys, which has seemingly led to a little bit more success at the rim, especially that last game. He's doing that one move on the baseline where he's like taking that huge step around guys and, finishing with finger rolls at the rim. So I'm wondering if it's like because of the way the game is being officiated, he now has to readjust what his mentality is or what his strategy is as he drives to the basket, not worry about initiating contact because that's not going to lead to a trip to the line. And there's probably not actually any point to initiating that contact as much anymore, right? So like maybe that initiation of contact is just driving him off his line, or he's focused on getting the call versus just finishing the basket. And if he just focus on finishing the basket, he might be all right. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm seeing out of Jason Tatum is if he can hit his 3-point shots, which will then open up driving lanes a little bit more, playing with a couple more floor spacers on the court. And he's going to the basket with a different mentality, not get to the free throw line, but just finish the damn layup, I think we're going to be okay.
So to your last point, this is something I started looking at today because like you're spot on with everything that you just said. And I thought about this actually from the point of Marcus Smart at the end of the game trying to get that foul call on Kristaps Porzingis, and where guys that are looking to get the call, they have no intention of really making the basket. They're not actually going up with the intent to score. They're going with the intent to get the foul. And that's what I think the NBA is cutting down. And I actually really like it as a
Same.
product, And so I looked at it. I pulled up last year who led the league in free throw attempts and who's leading the league this year in free throw attempts. I looked about the top 10 to 12. So bear with me for 1 second here. So looking at last year, and this year there's nobody over 10 free throw attempts per game, averaging right now. The highest is 8.9 for Giannis. Last year, the leader was Joel Embiid at 10.7. So here's the top 12 from a year ago. Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Zion, Trae Young, Jimmy Butler, Brad Beal, James Harden, Damian Lillard, DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox, Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant. Here's the top 12 as of right now. Once again, small sample size. Giannis, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gobert, Harrison Barnes, Bam Adebayo, Zach LaVine, Julius Randle, Montrezl Harrell, Kevin Durant, and Trae Young. To me, what that says is when I look at guys Giannis is going to be on this regardless, but I look at Giannis, I look at Jimmy Butler, I look at even DeMar DeRozan, I look at a guy like Harrison Barnes, Bam Adebayo, Julius Randle, Montrezl Harrell. These are all guys that are getting to the line, but they're getting to the line because most of these guys go up with the intent to score, and they'll absorb the contact, they'll take the contact, but their number one goal most of the time is going to be to actually score. When you look at a lot of the guys that are, and I'm not saying this is necessarily a knock, but you look at Trae Young, Brad Beal, James Harden, Damian Lillard, De'Aaron Fox, like drawing a foul call is more to your point, they're not going up with the intent a lot of the times to get a bucket. They're going up with the intent to get the foul and then get an easy bucket from the foul line. And I feel like just looking at that list, there's a lot of names in there that tell me that my hunch is onto something of there being something to the point of going up with the intent of making the basket versus going up and hoping to get the foul call or trying to get, hey, I'm driving, give me the foul call. I want to go to the free throw line. I don't know, but like you saying that to me kind of reiterated that to me in my head as I was looking at these free throw stats earlier.
No, I like that. The only thing that I would push back on is like, where's Jaylen Brown ranking right now? Because I feel like JB goes up with the intent to score all the time and still doesn't get any love from the officials.
Yeah, I mean he's at 5.1. He's in the top 20.
Okay.
He's up there with a lot of the guys.
Like he should get more.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see where he was a year ago. And I feel like, he's like Tatum last year was at 5.3 per game. I'm still looking for Jalen. I mean, Jalen was at 4.3 last year, so he's actually up about a free throw attempt per game.
Makes sense,
so that actually does line up with that whole theory of thinking. So I think it's something really interesting to watch because I like the way that the game is being officiated way more this year. Not just in Celtics games, every games all around the league. I think it's a far better product for the fluidity of the game.
Yeah. No, I like that. Go up with the intent to score, and then you'll get more calls. I think that makes a lot of sense. And when you go up with the intent to get fouled, then you don't deserve to get to the free throw line, man. That's kind of bullshit. That's like a non-basketball play. So that's cool. I like that. I'm on board with that.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place for us to end it there. We're gonna go on a high note here, like George Costanza, going out with showmanship. But quick programming note here: we are going to be coming back to you live after the Raptors game. We're gonna give Greg a couple minutes here to compose himself after watching his guy Scotty Barnes. He's gonna be a little flush. He's gonna need to maybe decompress a little bit. So we're gonna make sure that he's in a right state of mind before he comes on to talk to us about Celtics Raptors. But we'll be joining y'all right after the game. We're just gonna go on. We're not gonna set a time limit. As soon as we're ready to go, we're going to get it fired up. So make sure you're following us on YouTube and definitely on all of the our Twitter handles. Make sure you're following us on @GreenMBPod, @the617, following @CrowworthyTakes, @Boston Diehards. If you're following any of those, you cannot miss it. We're going to be around. But real quick, so we had a giveaway on opening night. Our guy, @Boston Armand, shout out to you for winning. But bro, so we got in touch with our guy here, or our friends at Crowworthy got in touch with him.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
And our guy @Boston Armand, he already had Jason Tatum jersey. No problem. We get you, bro. That happens. And so got him another jersey. Our guy got a Tyler Hero jersey. Now, I like Tyler Hero. I'm the Tyler Hero stan on this account. Greg went and saw Jack Harlow and came back and picked him for most improved player. So, there is Tyler Hero love on this podcast. But, man, you couldn't have gotten a JB. You couldn't have gotten Al Horford, Lob Williams. Maybe buy the T-shirt, though. But, you got to – come on, man. Come on, man.
I was so disappointed when I saw that, man. Like, what are you doing, bro? Boston Armand, come on, man. You got to remove the Boston from your handle, bro. We're this is all in good fun. Like, if you're actually listening to this pod, like,
Yeah, right.
we're
I was
not
gonna say
actually mad
we
at you,
do
but
appreciate you
like,
listening to the show.
yeah, exactly. But it's just like, come on, dude. Like, get a Celtics jersey. What are you thinking? It's ridiculous.
Oh man. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode here of Green with Envy on the 617 podcast. As we mentioned, we will be right back at you on Wednesday night following Celtics Raptors. As always, download, follow, rate, subscribe, 5-star rating, 5-star review. Go ahead, give it to us. And Greg, give us any final thoughts and then send us on out of here as you always do.
Uh, excited to see the Celtics this week. I think Scotty Barnes is gonna show everybody that my prediction that he is Sean Marion floor Giannis year 2. I think the Giannis year 2 thing.
Yo, I'm not gonna
Actually,
lie, man. I checked his stats before this, like, and I was watching. I sent you the highlights of him D'ing up KD and James Harden
he had
earlier.
5 steals today.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, the numbers are actually it's early. It's early, so I'm not ready to give you a victory lap yet. I mean, he looks great, but I'm not ready to give you a victory lap quite yet. But the numbers are looking the same, if not better, in just about every category.
Yeah, no, Scotty Barnes is amazing. So I'm looking forward to watch that game. Thank you everyone to listening. Please go check out Black Sheep Optimist on Instagram at Black Sheep Optimist and go stream our new single Tomorrow, which is what you're going to hear. The song is called Tomorrow. So go stream our new single Tomorrow, today. And we'll see y'all on Wednesday. Peace.
Peace.